Alaman
Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever or whenever you may be. This is the overnight. Sorry for the late start. There were some technical difficulties, or as someone used to say, technical diddlies.
It's all my fault.
Well, it's all we got it all worked out. So tonight we've got gun websites. How's it going, G-Webs?
Fair to Midland. Thanks for hosting.
And guns and barbecue. How's it going?
Pretty good. Be better if my desktop setup would work, but you know what? I'm on the mobile. I'm here and happy to be on the panel. Thank you for the invite.
And hail, Billy up.
Oh man, it's going great, brother. Going great. Oh, I just got home from Barry Manilow concert, and yeah, I think she's all primed up, so might not be on here for the entire show.
Is you have a Kentucky woman, or is it Cracklin' Rose?
I don't know, but I'll be calling her Mandy. Oh, man.
Mandy was his dog. That's what he was singing about. Gizzard Gary, how's it going?
Man, if it ain't better, it'd be illegal, I tell you what.
Oh, so tonight I don't really have a topic. I kind of couldn't decide on one. So we can talk about whatever we want to talk about if anybody has any topics they wish to discuss. There was a federal court judge ruled that machine guns are protected by the Second Amendment, which I think will quickly be overturned. But it was interesting that there was a judge that ruled that. So, switchblades were ruled in somewhere in the Ninth Circuit. I don't know at what level over around here, that switchblades are not protected by the Second Amendment.
And today is National Knife Day, so they did that on National Knife Day. Was that intentional or inadvertent?
Wow.
I don't know, because that one's kind of gone back and forth, because it was ruled that they were protected, or no, that was butterfly knives. But yeah, that's been something here in Washington, that they've been trying to get spring-loaded knives right now they're illegal in Washington to own. So there's been a push to try and change that law, but it.
You
don't
mean
seem to
like
be-
one that has a spring assist that opens fast, like a switchblade that opens faster? Okay.
You can have one that uses the spring to keep it closed, but not one that uses the spring to open it.
Are there knife manufacturers in Washington?
I don't know. Probably.
They're all in Oregon, I'm thinking, right? Like Netherman and Bench. Is it Benchmade? They're all in Oregon.
Buck is in Oregon too.
Oh, yeah. See, I knew there was like a bunch of them all together.
I thought Buck was in Idaho.
Maybe. I don't know. I know that there was a bunch of
Post
them.
Falls, Idaho, I thought.
Oh, is it Idaho? That's probably right. There was one other thing that happened. Another court case that I don't know, slipping my mind.
Well, I mean, I don't know where Benchmade's made around or whatever. Down around the mountains, we got Bedmade. They got a pretty good knife.
Are you thinking of the 18 to 20-year-old court case in
Yeah.
Minnesota?
Why don't you tell everybody about that while I'm typing something here?
Absolutely. There's not a whole lot to tell about it from what I understand.
It was shot down.
Yeah, I was going to say the judge just completely threw it out. He's like, nope, this is unconstitutional. Got nothing. See you later. So, I mean, with it getting thrown out, can it be appealed? I mean, I think it can be appealed, but
Oh, it'll be appealed, but whether or not the Supreme Court will do anything, and then if it's appealed, does that even mean anything?
well, like I said, I'm trying to remember if it was the 3-judge panel for the 8th Circuit, or if it was just a district judge. But from what I understand, it was completely thrown out. Like, dismissed the case. It said you got nothing here.
Is that the deal they say with prejudice or without prejudice?
There we go. And with prejudice, they wouldn't have been able to appeal it. But I don't think it was with prejudice.
So in other words, there you go. The final ruling. And now it would take another district court with an opposite final ruling to get the Supreme Court to fuck with it.
No, because I don't think the district judge dismissed it with prejudice. So I think they could still try and appeal it up to the circuit. Okay. But even still, really, I don't bank on anything at the district level, because no matter what, whoever loses almost always appeals to the circuit. And then that's just a 3-judge panel. So then
they got nothing to lose. They almost have to, really, right? Unless they're just seriously only phoning it in.
And so then it becomes a deal where, like, even when it goes to a 3-judge panel, I don't care, because again, it's almost guaranteed to get appealed to an en banc panel, which is all the judges in the circuit, unless it's the 9th, which has a ridiculous amount of judges. Most circuits have somewhere between 10 to 13 or so. But anyways, going off on a little tangent there. But so until the en banc panel makes a decision, I don't put any stake in it, because then you can really look at the case and go, okay, is the loser here going to lick their wounds and go, well, you know what, we gave it a good try, but we're not going to push it any further, or do they take it up to the Supreme Court? And then you also got to then look at the case and say, okay, with the way the en banc panel looked at this and did everything, does the Supreme Court just say we're not listening to it because the circuit court nailed it? Or do they go, yep, we're going to take this?
I think that's the case where the en banc declined. They declined to do an en banc hearing on it.
Was that one?
It was one of these ones.
I remember hearing about that. I thought that was a different case.
Why don't we have a national level organization that puts all these fucking things down and doesn't make it a fucking clickbait list of bullshit that's not even updated after they get their $30 off of people? Sorry, I feel obligated to bring that up every time we're in this situation where we're wondering what the fuck is going on.
And I think the other one that I was kind of thinking of is the Second Amendment Foundation and maybe the FPC too have petitioned the Supreme Court to hear assault weapons ban case.
I'll believe that when I hear it or see it.
Is that the Maryland case or the Illinois or the California?
Might be the Illinois. It's one that has gone through the whole process below.
Well, I think the Maryland case just got done doing that.
Then it might be that one.
Or is because for some reason I feel like the Maryland one is the one where the en banc panel may have declined. I don't remember.
We don't know what's going on.
There's too many cases. There's 400, almost 450 cases in the system right now. So
450 cases or 450 cases that have to do with 2A?
That have to do with 2A.
Oh, shit. And that's because they're incentivized to throw $30 at creating a clerk case, tell all their fucking donors that, hey, we're doing something. And they keep it so confusing, nobody can tell what the fuck's going on.
Well, that's just, you're just talking about ones that involve those big organizations. But think about the NYSERPA case. I mean, that wasn't any of the big ones. God, I really don't want to bring up Rahimi, but I mean, Rahimi, that was a public defender. So I mean, there's plenty of cases that are in the system right now that have nothing to do with the big 3-letter organizations.
Gotcha. That's a good point. But I still say there should be some sort of scoreboard so that we keep track of which ones are important, which ones are in movement, and we can do something about it. Well, whatever there is to do, we could at least be doing it.
A lot of these came up after the NYSERPA v. Bruin decision, where people were like, hold on, I can, challenge something that I had done against me or that's prohibiting me from, such as 18 to 20-year-olds always getting the shaft in so many states. They're like, whoa, we're bringing these cases to fight for our rights. And, I understand, grassroots and, getting ahead of the game. But unfortunately, there's a lot of things that have been done up till now that need righted as well. If righted is a word, that sounds awful to me, but
putting a canoe back, that's called riding a canoe. So I think that's right.
So the Second Amendment Foundation, they're dealing with the Maryland band. The FPC, I don't know if it's the same one or not. It's Snope versus Brown, but I don't know where it's from.
What are you doing? What are you looking at?
I'm looking at the FPC website.
Just each of their websites.
Oh, it is. That's the Maryland one. Which one thing that kind of annoyed me was I'm pretty sure it was the FPC on, I think, Instagram put a post that said the assault weapons ban is going back to the Supreme Court. Well, no, you're asking them to look at it. They haven't agreed to take it. It doesn't mean it's going back. You're just asking them to do it. That's something that really annoys me with
semantics.
Well, that's what I was about to say, semantics, because on one hand, I can see how they're saying it's going back to the Supreme Court because they're putting in writ for it, but then it's just a matter of, so it's like they're walking it to the Supreme Court's door, knocking and saying, hey, can we have permission granted, to hear this? And they're just waiting. So I definitely see where Foss is coming from, but at the same time,
all is in your court versus like they're actually taking the case.
Yeah.
It's just them. It's a way for them to wordplay to drum up their base and get that $30 that G Webs are just talking about. I dislike it as much as G Webs and Foss because it does pervert it. It makes it sound like to a lot of people that case is being taken by the Supreme Court when they're just simply waiting for the Supreme Court to say yay or nay.
Let me take a second quick to say hello to everybody that's out there. G23 was first. Vulcan Rumble. He was out at the rally. I'm guessing it's the Boston rally that happened. 2 Live Moo.
Vulcan Rumble was at the Boston rally, did you say?
He hasn't said which
he
one.
said it right there. Yeah. No, he's
But
in
he
Boston.
said he was at a rally. Oh, did he say later?
No, but I'm just assuming that his talk. I'm agreeing with you that he probably went to that one. That's cool. I'd like to hear his opinion of how it went.
Ozzy Osbourne. Gizzard Gary. Mr. Bob Dabalina. Hillbilly Up. G Web.
Oh, no. He says right there, not in Massachusetts. Unfortunately, the truth is Democratic Party do not particularly care what the public opinion is. I agree. But doesn't mean we can't do nothing.
Mr. Bob said the judge logic was sound on machine guns. It was a possession charge, so it becomes a weapons ban case, so it violates the text. That shifts the burden of the government to show historic precedent.
Yeah, I heard the judge's opinion, and it was very good. And when you look at the Nicer case, following text, history, tradition, all that, really, the courts should have only one way to rule with this. And even if and this was actually, I believe, in Kansas, if I remember correctly. But just because, like at best, this just exonerates this guy. Now if DOJ wants to push it, stuff like that, obviously they can and appeal it. But at the end of the day, this is probably not something that the Supreme Court will take up.
Is this assault weapons ban you're talking about?
Machine gun.
Machine gun.
Oh, because of the whole thing, you're saying that it turns into a possession charge?
Well, it was a possession charge, and then the judge ruled that it's a ban on machine guns, and that machine guns are protected under the Second Amendment. That the state didn't meet their burden of proof to, for text, history, tradition. They provided two examples.
Like why the state can't prove why it's an unjust law?
Well, no, they need to prove that it meets text, history, and tradition.
That makes it a valid law. Essentially, it was like, hey, yeah, I had a machine gun. I'm not debating that. I'm just like summarizing it.
Yeah.
But he's like, I had a machine gun, but the law is bullshit, and the law is the fault. Okay.
And the state provided, I guess, two quote historical analogs, and the judge was like, yeah, you're really grasping at straws on these. These don't work.
This was somebody with an illegal machine gun, or was this somebody with like a machine gun in a state where they can have it as long as it doesn't leave the state, or what do you know what the deal was?
No, this was in Kansas.
I forget, does Kansas have one of those? You can make a Kansas machine gun laws?
I don't think so. So I'm pretty sure he had, a quote illegal one because, or that's what he. I'm trying to remember what he had purchased, but then he. It was some sort of like pistol caliber carbine or something, and then he outfitted it with a Glock switch.
Oh man! So they turned it into a machine gun type of bullshit. Assembled machine gun. So Kansas, it's not the 9th. Did you say it's the 9th?
No, they're
no, I
not.
didn't say it was 9th.
Oh, okay.
That was when we were talking about different stuff.
Okay. And then I've never heard of a Kansas case doing anything. Is that like a good court or circuit, or is that a bad circuit?
I don't know what circuit that's in, because they never said, Fifth Circuit or anything.
I got a map somewhere.
10th.
Yeah. It's a 10th
Kansas
circuit.
is a 10th.
I don't think I ever heard anything about the 10th circuit. Like, doesn't ring a bell or anything.
So I do know the 10th Circuit had actually ruled in favor of the bump stock ban. And then I remember that they actually vacated their decision because everybody was excited, like, oh, here's opposing circuits for the bump stock ban and everything. And then I don't know why exactly they had vacated their decision, but after they ruled in favor of the bump stock ban, they're like, yeah, we're going to pull that off the table. So
for just like you said, because they didn't want to be the ones that pushed it up to the Supreme Court, right?
Well, there's already two differing. I think the 9th and 5th circuits had ruled differently already, and then the 4th Circuit, which is Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and other crap, had ruled in favor of the bump stock ban as well. And then the 4th Circuit did the same thing, where they took their decision away and just like, yeah, no, we're not messing with this. So you actually had two circuits that made a decision for and pulled it off. And then you had, like I said, I believe the 9th and 5th circuits that are already in opposition of each other. So I don't want to like talk crap on the 10th or even the 4th. Like the 4th circuit's actually usually really good. 10th circuit, like, we don't really know anything about. So I'm wanting to just think like they're 50-50, trying to be a little optimistic.
M. Gabriel's out there.
Be awesome if we had somebody on the panel that knew something about the 10th circuit. That might live in that state or something.
Yeah, it would be.
Oh, let me get my banner going since I remembered at the bottom.
The banner.
At the bottom of the screen, there's an email address on tacticalfaucet@gmail.com. You can send in pictures, comments, suggestions, and there's a link for the Discord server, place to hang out, chit chat, share pictures, memes, stuff like that. You can get a hold of me there, and if you watch this in replay, leave a comment, whatever we talk about. Agree with, disagree with, your opinions on these court cases. If we forgot an important court case, let me know. I read all the comments, and they are always appreciated. Mr. Bob said 10th Circuit includes Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, Kansas, and Oklahoma.
I did not realize Colorado is in that.
It's hard to keep track of who belongs to which. Oh. I don't know what else we want to talk about. What else is going on?
I've heard a lot of channels are getting people to follow and watch. They're like desperate for views and subscriptions, so they'll essentially bait a trap for everybody to watch their live streams by talking about a juicy bracket, and then they don't deliver. There's no bracket. Too spicy a topic, or?
Oh no, I can't do the bracket. There's it has a flat tire, so I need to get it replaced, and it's not a regular size tire. It's kind of like a wheelbarrow sized tire, so I'm having trouble finding a replacement.
You don't carry a spare?
No,
Hmm.
it's kind of one of those things where you think, well, I need to get a spare, and you put it off and kind of forget about it until you need it. So
I've been carrying around a spare tire since I was in like kindergarten.
yeah, I hear that. I did. I can't remember if I talked about it on Wednesday. I did pick up some of those polymer cased 5.56.
I don't remember if you talked about it on air or not. I remember either in the pre-chat or the after chat it was talked about a bit more, but I'm not sure. Like I said, on air, I don't know. And even if you did, I think a rehash would be pretty cool.
Well, I haven't done much more than that. I'll probably pull a couple of them apart just to check the case and compare them to brass. I only have like 40 rounds because it's about $25 for 20. So yeah, I wanted to get the 308 also. I don't know if the Cabela's has the 308, but there's the same company, True Velocity, I think it is, makes a 308. But those are like $50 for 20. So I just went with the couple 5.56. So I'll take them out and shoot them. I don't have a chronograph or anything like that, so I'll probably do a short video, but it won't be anything in depth or technical.
What if you went to the highway where they have one of those things that tells you, hey, you're going 45 miles an hour, and then you just shot right past that thing, when it's not crowded?
I don't know if it would pick it up. It might be too small. But I was a little disappointed that in the pictures, it's a white case with the logo, but the actual rounds don't have the logos on them. They're just white.
I wonder if any of the ones we've got from like SHOT Show, because I used to pick those up when they were brand new still. They'd have like all the colors out there, sometimes in like fish bowls or candy jars or something. You could just pick them up.
I would think maybe they'd be branded for like SHOT Show, just so people remember.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, there wasn't a lot of companies doing it, so they might have been like, why bother? But then, man, I just don't remember. I kind of know where they are, but I don't know where they are.
It was kind of interesting. When I was trying to find them, the Cabela's, they kind of squashed all their ammunition into one little U-shaped aisle, and it's.
Oh, really? Do they make the store smaller or something?
No, just the ammo sections. It's like a third as much ammo. There's more ammo than during COVID, but less ammo than pre-COVID.
Like the last time I went into one of those stores, I'm thinking they had 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 or 6 rows, like kind of, in front of all the guns.
So basically, it's now cut down. It's about 2.5 rows in the little.
What's the rest of the space? Is it just empty space, or is they filled it with something else?
No, they just filled it up with like ammo cans and accessories.
Okay. The last time I was in ours, it wasn't like that, but it was a month or so ago.
It's been this way for a while. But when I didn't see it on the aisle. They had it on the end, but I hadn't gone around to the end. And there's a kid that was stocking the shelves, and I asked him, hey, do you have the polymer cased ammunition? And he gave me a look like, yeah, you boozy fuck, and kind of rolled his eyes, and the other over here. It's like, all right, thank you. I forgot to open it.
I put a link to my new poll that I just made over on YouTube. Anybody that wants to jump in and vote over there, it's on my community tab. I just put a link to it. Our rallies, or what's your feeling on 2A rallies? Shit, did I put 2A in there? Maybe I just assumed everybody would know I was talking about a 2A rally. But since I watched the one in Boston today, and there's mixed opinions on if it was good turnout or not. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a rally where anyone agreed it was good turnout or whatever, or bad turnout, honestly. Like, everybody always has a different opinion on that. It's like a perception thing.
Yeah, I usually lean towards there should be more people there. We need more people to be there. So I will tend to usually be a little down on. I will say that the ones that happen around you, the last couple of years, I thought they have done it really well.
Yeah, it's more like a festival almost.
Yeah,
like the booths and stuff. Yeah.
Good participation, a fun atmosphere. Like the ones that with Washington are, I hate to call them pitiful, but they're kind of pitiful. It's not really a lot of people. I'd have to go back and then look to try and get a head count, but like 100 people, maybe 200 people, but
Yeah, that can be frustrating. And then it's one of those, it's worse than a gun show, because when a gun show is bad, unless you're there all weekend, you don't know. Like, vendors will know, I guess. But a rally is pretty obvious. Either the lawn section is full, or the parking lot or whatever it is full, or it's not. The stands or the chairs are full, or they're not. Hey,
the last one, they wanted to fill the steps of the State House, and it didn't even fill half the step, half of that space. It's hard not to be disappointing, but I mean there are people that go, and that's important. But we need more people to go, and part of it too is they do it during the weekday while the legislation is in session, to be a message to them. But the problem is when there's not a lot of people show up, what kind of message is that?
Yep. And then it's the ever debate of, if you do it on the weekday, I got to take off work. If you do it on the weekend, the representatives don't see you there, as if they don't watch TV and they don't get pictures of an event, Monday or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't get we got to be there on the day they're working, because unless you got nothing else to do, you're working, right? So who can take a day off on a work day to do something that's, it's definitely more time getting there and getting home from it than it is being there. You might be there for a couple hours, but you're going to definitely spend a couple hours traveling and parking. But I'm not saying they're perfect or nothing, but I think in my time since about 2015, I've been barely paying attention. I've been around and seeing things, but like seriously paying attention since 15. So almost 10 years. And I think there's more good than negative comes from them, but there can be negative. And like, I think a big negative is what you're saying, when they're weak. I think that definitely gives potential for the other side to go, ha ha ha, they're not, ready, or they're not willing to fight. Like, it's our time to shine. But that might be our perception,
And
unless somebody's done
I'm not
research to see, like, after a rally, is there new anti-gun laws? Like, unless there's research, it's just our perception. It's our feeling that they take advantage of us when we're weak.
And I'm not, trying to say that all rallies are this way. This is what happens here. And, I have seen some other ones which look small. I wasn't there, so I can't attest to how many people are there actually. But however many people are there, there should be more people there.
Oh, sorry, boss.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was sitting here thinking, And I was thinking to myself, what if you figured out how many firearms owners are in your state, and then said, what if we had 5% show up? Then I, did the math. Like, if you only had 1 million firearms owners in your state, and you asked for 5%, that's 50,000 people, which would be incredible. But, being realistic, like, not going to happen. And so even if you broke that down to 1%, if you only had 1 million firearms owners in your state, you're only talking about, or you're still talking about 10,000 people, which again would be awesome when we're talking about rallies that are having trouble getting a couple hundred people. Like, even if you hit 1,000, that'd be awesome at a state rally. So, like G-Webs just said, is there anything that shows that anti-gun legislation goes up after these rallies? I don't think so. I've never really heard of it. I've never heard of anybody going, oh, we had this rally, and then, a week later, this anti-gun legislation was introduced, and, if we would have had a better turnout, it would have never happened. Like I said, I know I've never heard that. I don't know about the rest of you. So what if we're thinking of rallies in the wrong manner? And that goes for the people putting them on too. This idea that, oh, we have to show up when they're working, stuff like that. Because I agree. I think it looks like crap when you only have a couple hundred people at best show up. Say you're trying to influence one side or the other. How much of their voter base is that 200, 300, 400 people? It's a drop in the bucket. Then again, if you extrapolate that into just firearms owners in your state, how does that look? But what if, you did meet on a weekend? What if you didn't even meet at the state capitol? You just had a rally somewhere random in the state, and you used it as a way to just stay informed, support your state organization, network, everything else.
Brilliant. Like a barbecue almost. Look who's...
Oh, yeah. Because I don't think these rallies are doing much in the way of, keeping anti-gun legislation from happening, or promoting. When was the last time that you really heard about pro-gun legislation being introduced where we get something back after one of these rallies?
Then that I could probably, if I don't have it off the top of my head, like with instant recall, like a robot. But I mean, I've been doing a number of rallies, and even even at the small ones. I don't want to say especially at the small ones, but even at the small ones, there's an opportunity for, let's just say, I'm just going to use like somebody who's into revolvers can hook up with somebody who's into shotguns. Like normally they're not going to get together, but at a rally they can. But two-way stuff. So maybe somebody who's into knives finds out about somebody who's into rights for 18 to 21-year-olds, and they figure out, oh wait, you know what, we're doing that thing at the library on the same day, let's join forces. So there's the potential for that. And I don't want to say like every rally it always happens, but that's where I'm saying, like, when you're saying an example of the positive, that's because you're bringing people together and you're letting them hang out. And if it's a positive one, then that might happen, but it probably happens in greater numbers. But at a small one, I think it can also happen, because everybody's just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. They sort of all look at each other and have that like, well, we're all here, let's make the best out of it, So anyway, I think that but that's, I'm being optimistic. I don't want to say like that always happens or that's inevitable or anything.
But and that's what I'm getting at. That like you could still have that without having to do it on the lawn of your state capitol. You could, Oh,
that's brilliant. And then when you do it at the state capitol, it always sucks for parking. It always sucks for turnout, and everybody always hates it. And there's almost inevitably either in Phoenix, that's the homeless set up or like hang out 2 blocks from where we have our rallies all the time, because we do them on the Capitol lawn. And you're right, they could do it at some cool place and make it a much funner event, that like a festival, not a more than a rally.
Yeah,
but ours,
like, I mean,
making it into a festival. They got fucking games and barbecue shit. There's all kinds of food trucks, and it's more like a little version of a outdoor gun show with people talking the whole time with loudspeakers.
Yeah, like what if you could get the largest gun shop in your state to do it. Like I was thinking of Grace's here in PA, which is a massive gun shop. They say they're the largest gun shop in PA. I've never seen a bigger one. So,
What's it
but
called?
like
What's it called?
Grices, Grices. But like, what if somebody went to Grices and was like, "Hey, we want to have this. You know, will you guys?" You know, I'm not even sure how big their parking lot is or anything like that. I'm just spitballing here, and say, "Hey, you know, would you guys allow this to happen in your parking lot all day or something?" Something that gives people a place. Oh, I can go in here, pick up some ammo. I'm meeting people. Now, does it necessarily have to be around a gun shop or anything like that? No, but it's something to incorporate, a local business, all kinds of stuff there.
I dig it.
And like, I still get, it's nice, having the rally at the state capitol because it kind of gives you a time to go in and try and sit down with your representatives. But like here in PA, a lot of times they'll do it on a Monday or a Tuesday. If you do it on a Monday, most of the representatives aren't there anyways because they're just traveling back. And on a Tuesday, heck, some of them are just getting in then because they're like, well, I'm not going to go in on Monday. I'm just going to cruise in on Tuesday because nobody else is getting there until Tuesday anyways. So depending on where they are, they might not get there until later in the afternoon on Tuesday or something. So it just, like I said, it's nice to be able to be like, okay, I'm going down for this, and I can designate that time as well to meet with a representative or something. But how many people actually take advantage of that? Out of the few hundred that show up, is there even 100 that are going, you know what, I need to go meet with my representative today? Or do they show up, they say, hey, I shook some hands, met a couple cool dudes, went, grabbed lunch, went home?
So Vulcan is saying that you had to walk an hour and a half each way to get there. In Santa Fe, in New Mexico, when they did the rally up there, it's at their roundhouse, they call it, or the Great House or something, I forget. But it's like the old fashioned, whenever they first became a state, it's like their state house is still this old like adobe building, and the roads are all tiny. And I got there way early, and I still had to park far away, but I'll bet you the same thing. Except what they did in in Santa Fe is, I'm pretty sure this is where I got the idea, because it's not like I came up with this idea, but there was gun shops that you could park in their parking lot, and then like little shuttle buses, it was like half a bus things, would shuttle you down and drop you off in the parking lot where the rally was. But it was the same thing. Let's do the rally at the state capitol, which is this tiny little building in the middle of a tiny little town. It's like a miniature town. And you get there and there's not even a lawn. I mean, if there was a lawn, it was like the size of 2 parking spots. It was like we're all just standing on the sidewalk around this building, and it was closed because it was the weekend, if I remember right. And we're all just standing on the sidewalk. It was like the most cramped and confined rally I've ever been to. It was like a pain in the ass just to walk from one end of it to the other to kind of see how big it was. But everybody that was complaining about the turnout at Boston Commons was saying that's one of the reasons you shouldn't do a rally there, is because it was such a pain to get to. But if it's like such a pain that you got to park an hour and a half away, I mean, who the hell's going to walk for an hour and a half? I mean, that's a whole type of person, right? That's very few. 1 out of 100. Unless
it depends on.
There's Uber nowadays, so I'll bet you a ton of people Uber.
I was also going to say it depends on how PO the people are. How many people do you have show up? If representatives know people are walking an hour and a half, 2 hours each way because they're that upset. I mean, I don't care if it's only 100 people showing up, but I think that would make an impact in itself. If I knew that if I was a representative and I knew even 10 people walk 2 hours to talk to me, they've got my attention.
That's a very good point. This is the gun shop that barbecue is. Oh, what happened? This is the gun shop that barbecue is talking about in this gray building right here. And I'm assuming that this is the parking lot next to it that is associated with the building. However, under doing some research, this seems to be some kind of a restaurant. And look at how big that parking lot is. So depending on if you did it in coordination with that restaurant or what, you could probably use that parking lot. I cannot figure out who owns this parking lot, so I'm just going to assume you can use that parking lot for this rally. And then this is an Elks Lodge, so I'm just going to go ahead and assume they don't care about using their parking lot either. So maybe this could be a contender. Do this in some sort of like everybody parks over here, and then the events over here or something. So I think it's got legs. It's been verified. You're welcome.
Thanks. And the nice thing about Graces too is, I mean, it's not centrally located in the state, but it's not too terrible. It's fairly close to it. But imagine like if you could pull something like that off at every state, and like how many more people would be apt to go to a rally if it was at a gun shop where after they're done hearing some people speak, stuff like that, they can go in and browse, pick up a new firearm or something.
Make it like what do they call it? Like an event where they got those pop-up tents and manufacturers show up.
Oh yeah.
So if you did it like that, and depending on the manufacturers, like local manufacturers for sure, services, gun shops, not gun shops, but trainers and gunsmiths and that kind of thing could show up and meet people and whatnot, like you're saying, after or during the thing, and then food vendors and whatnot. I mean, you could pretty much do that anywhere you do outdoor parties too. Like doing it at a gun shop is a good idea though, because a lot of shops do have at least adjacent, something where they can do it in a parking lot or whatever. As I say, if Vulcan is talking about it took an hour and a half to get there and then he had to hike in versus having to hike an hour and a half, I might be misunderstanding that.
Oh, yeah.
That makes more sense if you had to drive for an hour and a half to get there. Of course, I have no idea what Boston's like. I can only assume the traffic is something like I've never dealt with before.
I've never been there. I've just heard a lot of people complain about it.
I've driven to LA, so I've seen some traffic recently, and I've done some road trips, but not in Boston. Oh, wait, no, I don't think I've ever been to Boston. No, I couldn't have been to Boston. I'd have to drive across New York to get to Boston, right? Yes, I haven't been to Boston. But I've been to DC, and I can't even imagine driving around in a bigger city than that. At least with all that kind of traffic. East Coast traffic. So there's a big difference between East Coast traffic and West Coast traffic. Or drivers, I guess I should say.
Gary, are you still there? Are you awake?
Hey, what's up with Gizzard?
I believe I'm still awake.
So what does Gary want to talk about?
Gee, I don't know. You asked me that before. I'm not.
Well, I value your opinion.
Yeah, sometimes I don't have one. That's a problem. I wasn't told that I needed to bring anything for this program. I didn't have any homework, did I?
No.
No, this would have been a bonus.
Oh, okay.
You get extra credit. Mr. Bob said, how many industry events incorporate 2A activism like petitions, position statements, etc., at each booth as a part of their industry show?
I mean, Gizzard has been to more recently than I have, but I have an answer. And that's 0. Like, that's one of my
Right.
frustrations, is that they don't bring it up. They're usually going to say, back in the old days at least, when you'd bring it up, they would say, we don't talk politics here. It's not the place. And then it's like, fucker. Like, then you go to the range. We don't talk politics here. It's not the place. It's like, fucker. Then you go to a gun show. And gun shows sometimes they'll talk politics, but they're weird tinfoil hat or like libertarian party, so they're not appealing to everybody type of politics. But essentially, everybody just pass the buck. We don't talk about that stuff here. It's too controversial. But that works in like Arizona, but it doesn't work in Massachusetts, right? You get Massachusetts when you let that shit happen.
Ozzy said, I've driven in Boston. It's not easy, but I've driven in worse. And Vulcan Rumble said 60-mile drive, then a 1.5-mile walk.
Wow. And it seemed pretty hot there. It seemed like 80 degrees was sunny.
This problem with a lot of these industry events is they're always held in friendly territory. So you don't get, a lot of the, let's act on this because, this is a problem. Most of the time it's in,
I see what you mean. Yeah,
you
exactly.
know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Constitutional
it's real comfortable and everybody's chill and nobody's bringing it up. Now, I don't want to doom everybody. It's not like I don't want to be pessimistic, because look at goals. They put a heck of a lot of attention towards the issues. NRA, it's there. It's just nobody pays attention, and that's one of my frustrations with the NRA show. SHOT Show, as much as they don't like restrict it, it's the culture to not bring it up, but that culture is changing. And due to like, Tony and others who like Diana, who go there with, that's their gig is 2A. So it's becoming more of a thing. And you got people like Derek, who's getting sponsorships from the industry. So there's people funding not massive, but funding more and more, not massive. I didn't mean to say massive, but like more and more projects that are happening that are 2A. So they're at the events, but I think that's changing too. I don't want to even doom us. I really do think it's changing. Like, there's been years with seminars at SHOT Show that focus on rights and issues and stuff. They're just not. It's just SHOT Show is a bad example. But if you look at, I don't know, you guys have been to nobody's in here has been to the Pennsylvania one. Within that Rod of Iron Freedom Festival, I'm almost positive they talk about politics and issues. And well, what about TriggerCon? And you've been to NRA show more than me. I mean, in the booths in NRA, sometimes they'll mention stuff if we're like immediately under attack, or if like something's imminent. But usually they're just not interested. They want to talk about business or whatever new
I
gizmos.
didn't hear much of anything in TriggerCon regarding that.
But it's also tiny compared to all the rest of the stuff we're talking about.
It is. Yes.
Mr. Bob said, I think that's a huge problem. They have the largest crowds that are supportive of the cause. It's a huge fail to do nothing. It's like Yankee says, they sow division and fear to fuel sales.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword. You could look at it as the after effect and say, well, they profited and we still don't have it finished, so therefore they're happy with the situation. Some of them might be oblivious, and then there's a couple that are frustrated. But I don't want to say but. One of the things that I've been saying in these conversations, usually in the middle of the night like this, so nobody ever hears them, is how cool would it be at SHOT Show, and even in gun shops, honestly, if there was like, and I think of like gun shops because in Tucson here, the gun shop that I hung out at, he would sponsor, I'm trying to think of everything, like at least a little kids little kids soccer probably team, and then a bowling team, and another thing that some sheriffs did, and then a lot of shooting teams. So like a lot of shooters would be sponsored by the gun shop, and then the gun shop would have like little plaques on the wall. Then it would say like, thank you for sponsoring us, right? Or like, here's an award we won because you sponsored us, right? So it's like recognition. So I was always like, why isn't there that same whatever like effort towards here's the organizations I'm a member of, right? Like I'm a member of GOA and an NRA or in SAF, and here's the local ones, right? And maybe like here's their phone number. So it's something that just isn't in our culture yet, but somebody could do that real easily. You know, like somebody, if a gun shop had a YouTube channel and they had a silver play button, they'd put it on the wall, right? Even though most of the people that walked in there only would know about it if they watched YouTube and understood what that was. But you know, the same thing with the gun owners' rights groups. If we made it like, let's normalize putting up those, what do they call that? Like a virtue signal of, you know, here's the groups that I support, because then it would create awareness and like the idea that they're, you know, I'm going to go to this gun shop because look how many places they support. Or like, how come when I go to this gun shop, you only support one? And if that person has a valid reason, like I only support this one because I give them all my money, like that's good to know. Maybe you want to go to that gun shop. I don't know. So that was one of my things. Like, what if the booths put up some sort of a little indicator that indicates the organizations that they're affiliated with, and then, you know, it'd be a way to differentiate themselves. And, you know, for one thing, like Gizzard knows, when you walk around the booths, you got no idea what state they're from. Sometimes it's what country they're from, but mostly it's like, you know, what state they're from. And if there was a little thing on the wall that said the organizations they're with, right away you could be like, well, this one's supporting like 3 Kansas organizations. This company's probably in Kansas. So that would just be kind of neat, I think, to see that, whatever you call it, like culture develop at SHOT Show. But I don't know, somebody'd have to instigate it and encourage it. But hell, I mean, I could go on and on. You guys get sick of me talking about all the things that we've made SHOT Show change. You know, like it started with cameras, and then it was video, and then it was streaming, and now it's people with phones, and now they have little sections of the booth that are like set up as little selfie stations where, like, to make it more and more convenient for YouTubers to walk up and make videos. It's like part of our culture now, and it's probably everywhere. It's not like just SHOT Show, but incorporating that kind of element to SHOT Show, I think it just takes a little effort, and this national level organizations could all do it. All they'd have to do is say, hey, you're going to SHOT Show, can I give you a little badge? It's going to be big, you know, it's going to be, I don't know, the size of a coffee can lid so people can see it from the aisle, but yeah, I want to give you one. And, you know, it would cost something, but fuck it, all these organizations make millions of dollars a year. They could spend a couple of $1,000 coming up with some kind of a thing. And then each of the booths could have, you know, these badges to indicate what organizations they work with. And that just becomes part of the awareness of that company. Because, I mean, Gizzard knows, what about the knife companies? Like they're constantly like saying, hey, we're arms too. Like we're here, we're arms. And I mean, I can go on and on. I'll shut up here, but you know, there's all kinds of sub niches and stuff that people could champion by putting up a badge in their booth.
So, also going on what Bob said, the organizations, whether we like it or not, they've got to make money. If we want them to take court cases, fight them, all that fun jazz, the average case to go up to the Supreme Court's $1 million. You got GOA that you have the numbers, makes what, like
6.8 million
a year?
6.8.
NAGR makes what, 14, which they've only really started doing things recently, which is nice to see that they're actually starting to do some stuff and bring some cases up and whatnot. But you know, an organization that is only pulling in $7 million a year, like GOA, you know, a couple Supreme Court cases and they're hurting if they're not fundraising. Now I think it's crap, like when Second Amendment Foundation had the case in Washington there. What is it, 1639 plus, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Second Amendment Foundation is doing a lot of good stuff with that, and then the NRA comes in and wants to be a co-plaintiff or whatnot, and then they just copy and pasted what Second Amendment Foundation said. They sucked up a few $100,000 or whatever from Washington residents, and then just let Second Amendment Foundation do everything. Like when stuff like that happens, it sucks to see, but especially from the biggest organization. But it's a double-edged sword. Like I said, these organizations have to pull in money if we want them to fight these cases. And it doesn't matter if it's a big national level one or state level, or if you're fortunate enough to have something on your local level, even they've got to do things to bring in those funds. And unfortunately, fear mongering pays bills. Unfortunately, people go and like Second Amendment Foundation, I think it's like $100 or something like that to become a life member. How many people become a life member of Second Amendment Foundation and then never do another donation again? And like Second Amendment Foundation, like you get something with that. They send out this really cool like certificate, I guess you could say, that's in a small frame and a patch and all kinds of stuff. Now, do they need to do that? No. But it's kind of cool, and that's like the cheapest life membership that you're going to find to any of these organizations, and they're doing some of the most work. So, again, it's a double-edged sword. But if we want to have these things cut back on, unfortunately, like I said, they got to fundraise one way or the other, and people are motivated by fear.
I was just gonna, I didn't want to interrupt you, but when I did that poll the other day where I looked up the numbers, gun or NRA, according to 2022, is the most recent tax numbers. So I think it's probably going down since 2022. I don't think NRA is going up at all. In 2022, oh man, I forgot what the numbers are, but it's something like 212 million a year, and USCCA is like 290 million. So there's more people in NRA because they probably have somewhere between 2.5 and 5 million members. And USCCA has something like 800,000, but USCCA makes more money every year than NRA, and it by a pile.
Well, the NRA numbers, does that include like the insurance side and stuff like that, or is that just
NRA?
donations? Yeah,
that's just going off of their tax thing off of that one website. So I didn't dig in more than just I'm just comparing their overall, like what they reported as their income on taxes. And there's this website that reports their forms. So you can get in there. Most people, I think, look at the tax form at the one, when you look at the tax forms for a minute, you kind of figure out where the pieces of it that matter are. And there's the number that they pay their crew or staff, right? Like the staff, or whatever you want to call that number. And then there is a number on their tax forms. These are like nonprofit IRS forms or whatever. There's one of the sections of that says something to the effect of number of dollars spent on the campaigns that this thing exists for, like number of dollars actually spent on doing stuff. And people will usually pull those two numbers off of the tax form as an indicator of how much they're spending on their crew or their staff and how much they're spending on the projects. And then there is, I think, a marketing number, and I just didn't do it because I only had finite amount of time to work on this. And I think whenever the source I got it from also pulled out their marketing number. So somewhere in that form is their marketing number. And that can fluctuate a lot because like Nagger pays a lot for marketing, but they're their own marketing. So they're just transferring money from one account to another and saying that they're paying a marketing company, which is themselves. So sometimes that number can be a way to pull money off the till and just put it in a different pile. Or maybe an organization is spending a lot of money, like NRA was spending a lot of money on advertising for a while, right? Like that's probably one of the reasons that it's a separate number.
I was just curious because with the NRA, there's, like they're the largest insurer for gun shops and ranges and stuff. So I didn't know if some of that number incorporates dealings with that.
It may, because there is
the SAF isn't doing that, so their numbers are going to be different.
No, that's a good point. And that's why NRA is so massive, or at least one of the reasons why NRA is so much more massive than all the other ones because of that, probably. But when you search for NRA on that website, I forget what it's called, but I have it on Minuteman, so you can find it. But you search for NRA on that website, and it does come up with I don't even know, maybe 10 different entities because there's the NRA this, and there's the NRA museum, and there's the NRA this and that and the other thing. I don't remember one of them being like NRA insurance though, but there could have been, and it could have been called something else for all I know, right? And then so it could be separate, is what I'm saying. I just don't know.
Oh.
I only went with the main NRA one because it was a pretty big number, and I mean, I'm assuming that's in there because it's such a big number, but I mean, you're right. Like maybe that is kind of like ILA or something, like for legal reasons, maybe it has to be separate or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of curious.
Now, do they actually do the insurance part of it, or are they just the middleman for an insurance company and they just are facilitators or whatever that's called?
I don't know for certain. I thought they were, but I've never looked into it.
Because I don't know. When I keep talking about the numbers for USCCA, that's the numbers of dollars it costs to be a member times the number of members they say they have. But if they're using an insurance company and they're, taking $29 and keeping 20 and moving 9 across, then maybe they're only making 2/3 of what I'm talking about because a third of it goes to the insurance. Like I have no idea how their inner workings work. The nonprofits, you can look at their tax forms. At the USCCA, I just did the math of on their website. It says they have 800,000 subscribers or members or whatever. And then it says it costs $29 a month or more to be a member. So I just did the math.
Garage guys out there? Good.
I did.
You broke up. Or was it me? Was it G-Webs or was it me?
Yeah, it's most definitely G-Webs.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I can't hear him either.
I think the robots got him. Big 2A is taking down G. All this talk about NRA and USCCA, they're like, nope, can't have no more of that. Boom. Big 2A strikes again.
I just had a thought and it slipped away. Slipped sliding away.
Well, while you're thinking of that, because G-Webs did mention USCCA as gun rights organization, but I really don't view them as that. I 100% see them just as an insurance agency.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I would put them more adjacent. 2A adjacent. I was a member of USCCA until Washington State said you can't have USCCA. Our insurance commissioner, can't remember the title exactly, but had ruled that it banned it, saying that you can't have insurance for a criminal act. It's like, well, it's in no way does that fit under what he's saying, but so there's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through, and you can't call it insurance. He's back. So I have the only one that is allowed in the state is the U.S. Law Shield, which used to be Texas Law Shield.
Which is
No.
what I have.
What about attorneys on retainer? Because that you're actually retaining an attorney.
I would think that would be okay but I don't know.
From what I understand, there's only one state giving them crap right now, and that's Connecticut. Connecticut's actually calling them insurance, and they're like, we're not insurance. We're not bonded like that. Nothing. So they're actually battling that right now. But everywhere else, it's an attorney on retainer. It's actually because I have USCCA right now, and I'm probably going to be making a switch here soon, because with USCCA being an insurance company, when you call them, you're not speaking with an attorney. So at the end of the day, if you say, "Oh yeah, this happened, blah blah blah," I called USCCA. None of that is attorney-client privilege. Anything that you say to USCCA could come back to bite you in the ass once you go to court, if you're being, charged with a crime or anything. Which at the same time, if that's the point, or at that point, if that happens, USCCA is probably going to say they're not going to cover your case anyways. So then on top of all that, not only are they not covering you, so now you probably have a public defender or something, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. They're just overworked and underpaid. Then whatever you told that receptionist that answered the phone for you, could be used against you. If you're like, yeah, I just shot this guy in self-defense or something, which, sounds like it should be fine, but at the end of the day, when you talk to your attorney will figure out what the best course of action is for you to plea, all that fun jazz. So if you say something like on that phone line, even if you don't say it was self-defense, whatever you say, you lock yourself into, as opposed to if you immediately talk to an attorney, they should be telling you, butt the shuck up. When the cops get there, don't say anything. If you say anything, it should simply be, I will talk to you through my attorney. That's it. And then your attorney will come sit down with you, all that fun jazz. And then the attorney can actually give your statement for you.
What I like logistically, or like potentially, or whatever the word is, like if with the attorney on retainer, you may not know which attorney you're going to talk to because they have a group or whatever, but you definitely know who you're calling, right? And it's not like,
yes,
okay, let me get in touch with, and then, oh, we found a person and blah, 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 because you've already probably talked to them. And I think they do a deal. I don't want to speak for them, but I think they do a deal where if you call and ask them a question, they'll answer your question. I mean, most of them will do that. Like most of the people that have attorneys available will do that, or let you ask questions at least. But anyway, that's all I'm saying. Like worst case scenario, it's like you potentially have already talked to the person who you're calling, instead of first now getting introduced to this person and they're first now pulling your name off of their their to-do list today.
There's one that I heard about with USCCA person called in. They got disconnected for whatever reason, and while USCCA is calling them back, they're being put in cuffs. Now, at least if you called and spoke to your attorney, they could be like, you're so and so, blah blah blah. All right, cool. And while you're being put in cuffs, they're already taking action, as opposed to some pencil pusher who's like, hold on, what's your name again? You got to look up this account.
But to be fair, I have no idea what happens when you call. Maybe they do get a lawyer right to you. Like I have no idea how that works.
With a couple of the stories I've heard, they're not so quick for that. They talk about how fast you get bonded out and stuff, and if you start going around on the YouTubes, there's many. I shouldn't say many, but you'll find people telling their story about their experience with USCCA, where they might have sat in there 3-4 days a week before they were bonded out. USCCA makes it sound like.
I'm gonna start a thing for $30. I send you a $20 bill and a $50 bill glued together, so it's half $50 bill, half 20. But if you fold it right, it'll look like a $50 bill, and then you'll get a $50 bill in that condition for $30, and then you can just bribe your way out of whatever happens. Like, hey, here's $50. Let's just act like this never happened. And that's essentially for $30, you get yourself get out of jail free card.
Oh, I did. It wasn't UCCA that I had. I had CCW Safe.
That's the one out of Oklahoma that was made by ATF agents and attorneys.
I had realized that I had, because they used to send out emails all the time, self-defense stuff and educational emails, and I realized I hadn't received an email in a while, and went back and then found the last email, and it said that they were dropping me because they can't operate in Washington anymore. It's like, oh, I guess I should have paid attention.
I was going to say that's another aspect when I was doing the research and doing my chart or whatever that I did a couple of years, maybe 3 years ago now. A giant aspect of all of them, really, but some of them way more than others. But a big aspect of them is the education. So they all feature, some sort of, we're going to help you if you get into an altercation or a bad deal, but let's keep you out of that bad deal. Let's do as much as possible ahead of time to make sure that you can do something to avoid a situation. And USCCA, I think everybody would agree they have like a lot of stuff towards that. I don't know how, everybody doesn't love it, but there is definitely a lot of quantity of it. And then I don't know if you guys brought up Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network, but that's essentially their thing, is like you're getting a lot of education stuff because there's an ulterior motive there. They want to be able to educate your jury if you ever have to get into that situation. But that's an element that some people value and some people ignore. It's like some people really dig the idea that you'll get like that email you were talking about from CCW Safe, and that I can't even imagine what all USCCA does. But like I say, they seem to delve into that more than anybody. And then again, that's part of what you're paying that $30 a month for. It's like, yeah, you get insurance, but since nobody ever uses insurance hardly, because none of us are getting into trouble, what you're really paying for is all this other stuff with USCCA. And I don't know if they still send you a magazine, but for a while there, like the magazine was a piece of it too, like a piece of paper magazine that you would get in the mail. They probably quit doing that though a while ago.
No, I still get the magazine.
Oh, okay.
I don't read it or anything. I just throw it in the bookcase because, well, obvious reasons.
I would say with kids around, it's always worth having something for reading, because I don't know if you do it as like, like, hey, let's take some time and read, or if it's like, just the kid wants to wind down and read, like, there's at least there's something there that if the kid ever decides to read, there's always something in arm's reach to read.
Yep.
Or, something they know where to find to read, I guess. Who cares if it's an arm's reach? I don't know what killed my connection before. Maybe I think I just had too many windows open for too long. So I'm going back over to look at my poll. I think a whole bunch of people had answered it.
Vulcan Rumble said there's September 24th. Their gun show in Marlboro at the Best Western Expo Center. Can you pick up some cigarettes while you're there too?
What do they give you to them for free in Marlboro? Feel like you go somewhere that'll just be sitting there. You ever been to a gun show in a Best Western or like a small hotel? Like a drive, what do I call that? A drive-in? No, a motel.
I think I've only ever been to 2 gun shows, and I only remember one of them, and that was 30 years ago.
Oh, geez. Okay. They're unique. They're usually going to be a promoter that digs it and is like, you know, in the game of doing gun shows, and they're willing to do one, usually in like a place that's all they got, or that's all they'll be able to support. So in other words, it's a big enough venue that you're going to get a promoter, and not just, I don't know, might be like the VFW will do tiny ones where they got nothing else to do, so they'll do a gun show. But there's kind of a promoter, but he only does those kind of shows, kind of thing. So anyway, this is like a step up from the DIY promoter, and but it's also way smaller than like your anything like a 400 table gun show. Like a Best Western is probably like a 25 to 100 tables. I'd be surprised if it's 100 tables. So you're not going to get vendors that are looking for massive traffic and stuff. So that means like a lot of your, just like that, like there'll be an island of all magazines at a lot of big shows. Like, you know, some of the standards won't show up, and it just becomes a really neat show. Now, back in the day, it was different, I suppose, but it would mean that your big, like people that do gun shows every weekend wouldn't bother at these shows, but your people who like have a bunch of shit that they want to sell would buy a table because it's super cheap, and there's still people showing up at this show. It's like still a pretty decent show for visitors, or whatever you call them. So anyway, so they were some of the funnest shows as a collector, because they were almost always tables of people who were bringing shit from home, and almost none of the like professional, I go to gun shows and here's my same shit every month or every gun show. So it was always like a really good flavor show. I really value the ones that are in these like hotels, or like that 20 to 100 table size gun show. You got time to fuck around because everybody's bored. There's not so many I keep saying viewers, but it's not really viewers. What would it be? Like attendees, I guess. There's not so many attendees that there's like everything gets bought. So there's time to talk to people. And if somebody brings out like, I don't know, what are those things called? Contenders? What the hell makes them? I guess Contender made them. But you know, the blowers that had all the different upper calibers that were single shot break opens, and they'd all have, you know, you'd have all these different uppers.
Well, like the Thompson Center ones, or
different centers, Contenders. Yeah, there's, I think, called Contenders back in the day. But yeah, exactly. And but this one guy would set up, and he'd be sitting there, and he'd have all these barrels, and you know, I'm assuming he just was into these things, and he had a ton of them. And you can't go to a gun shop and find that, you know, like good luck. Like there's maybe a gun shop would have one with a barrel or two, but you're not going to find like somebody who's just going to geek out on them. And it'd be the same thing.
I don't think I've ever seen one in a shop.
I've like I said, I've seen them. Maybe like somebody will bring it in to sell it, and it'll be on consignment, or it gets traded in or something, and it'll be there for moments because that's a super in demand gun. Like it wouldn't last very long. So yeah, there's lots of guns like that they're unique enough and cheap enough that people will snag them up. But the people hunt with those, so there's probably a shit ton of hunters if there's one on a shelf that aren't going to leave it sit there very long. You never shot one?
No.
And nobody on Thunder on the Prairie brings one?
No. One, not yet.
They're unique. You ever shot like a massive revolver? Little short, snubby revolver like you like? Like the 500 Magnum? You ever shot that?
No.
Thing?
Biggest I've ever shot was a 44.
So 44
real big.
Sparrow?
Probably 6.
No, that doesn't kick that much.
Because mine's 7.5, and I know the other one I shot was like 30 years ago. I think it was a 6-inch.
So you haven't experienced, I guess, a big snappy gun, but that's essentially what I was getting at. Is these Contenders, even though they're so long, they're pretty snappy, at least from what I remember. It's been a long time since I've shot them, and I think my friend did put a Pachmayr grip on it, now that I'm thinking about it, which does kind of screw with the geometry or whatever, the shape of the grip. So maybe he ended up inadvertently giving us more kick just by putting on that Pachmayr. But whenever, I don't know, Gizzard and barbecue, I don't know if I remember your stories, but like when I was a kid, when we all turned 18, we all started buying guns, right? So my one friend, like we're all buying normal guns, shotguns, and other kind of guns, but we're all buying guns. And my one friend, his first gun, it was either his first or second gun, was this Contender, and we're all like, "What the hell, dude? Like, why would you buy this? Is like of all the things to start buying, you buy this." But then we all shot it, and like say, it was kind of a neat gun actually.
I know a lot of people around here, if they've got any of the Thompson Center Contenders, seems like everybody and their mother puts a bipod on it and a scope.
Yep. We didn't shoot it that way, but yep, I totally agree. Like that happens a lot because it's kind of like kickstands. It makes it easier to deal with. Like, nobody's going to lay it down all the time, but people do like shooting it that way because it kicks like a motherfucker. That's what I'm saying. His was a fucking like 30-06 or some shit. Maybe it was a 308. It was some kind of rifle caliber, and he was super stoked about that. I don't even remember it being in a movie or not. I don't know where he got so stoked about it. But anyway, that thing kicked like a motherfucker. So it was like shooting a 308 with like a 8-inch barrel or some shit. And we would just shoot it
a bit longer still.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember, but it was a pistol. So, we were shooting it like a pistol like idiots. So, like I said, they kick like a motherfucker. When you put them on a tripod, I'm assuming they don't kick anywhere near the same. And when you're hunting and stuff, you're not riding that recoil. My friend might have just been a recoil junkie now that I'm thinking about it.
Oh, that's what Uncle Jim. I don't know if you know Uncle Jim's channel. That's what he shows a lot is his Thompson Center that he'll shoot, and I think he has a bipod and the scope on it.
Well, part of the challenge of those is shooting them at distance accurately. I mean, it can definitely be done. They are precision guns. Like they are very well. The ones I'm familiar with are pretty, very well made.
And I know he's got a couple different calibers that he'll switch out.
And that was a massive plus, is you just essentially take the barrel off and swap. I mean, I guess except for rimfire, I don't know how the rimfire works, but you just go buy whatever caliber barrels you want and just snap them in.
Vanessa Kitty's out there. Oh, we'll probably close her down here in a little bit, but I'm going to kill like 2 more minutes so we make an hour and a half.
You didn't have a poll this week? You do polls also?
Well, the polls are for Wednesdays.
Oh,
they usually don't do the poll for overnights.
Right now, on my poll, the somewhat effective gun rallies are somewhat effective is winning with 42%. Minimally effective is coming in second with 33%. Not effective, third with 17%. And I'm assuming 1 vote for highly effective in fourth place. I don't know what people thought would happen, but that's a little bit more positive than I thought would happen.
So another cool thing about the contenders, at least all the ones I've ever seen, they typically have a bull barrel on them. So I've seen a lot that are already started at the muzzle. But if you get one that isn't, because it's a bull barrel, there's a ton of meat there to actually take and get that barrel threaded. And I've also seen where people like to put cans on them.
Yeah, I never thought about that when we were doing this. This was like in the 80s. That wasn't even a fucking fantasy, so I never even thought about that. It probably makes them shoot better too, right?
I honestly don't know. I've never gotten to shoot one with a can, but I know people that are always jazzed up. They're like, oh, I can put a can on this, or, so. But I also feel like a lot of those guys that I know that would say that are never going to get a can. So.
Well, you're putting it on an optic on it. I mean, you're putting an optic on it, so all of a sudden the can don't really matter unless it's so hot that it's fucking with your vision through the optic or whatever. But they say that a can is the perfect crown. So, I mean, as long as you put it on there well, like good concentricity or whatever, then I would assume like any gun, it's going to increase the performance. And then I'm thinking recoil, it would mitigate recoil to some extent, I guess. It would be interesting to have one have one and then shoot it with and without the can to figure that out. But I'm assuming that if it sucks a bunch of the gases, that it's essentially kind of like a brake. But I could be fucking wrong. I really don't know.
Here is Uncle Jim. This is one of his setup. So
It's cool as hell. Is that a 22 or is that bigger? Just been going off of the nut versus can diameter. It
I'm
could
not
be
sure.
something like 223 fucking wildy. Like, I mean, it could be fucking anything in a contender, but still 22 caliber at the end.
In this video, he goes through and he's like working on the forend and all kinds of stuff like that. But so it's
Fire. It's not 9mm, I hope.
I don't know. Like I said, he's got it might be 380. Can't remember if he has a 380 because I know he's got a couple different barrels that he swaps in and out. Or not sure what this one was.
I feel like Gizzard's getting paid the same as much as us, but we had to do all the saying everything. Like, we had to do all the work.
Yeah, we're a bunch of chumps.
That's so here I'll drop the link for Uncle Jim's channel since we were talking about him. He's quite a humorous fellow.
So I just grabbed a moth and winged it out of the house. Do you guys just, take moths out, or do you take them out, or do you take them out of the house and let them go?
If I can, I'll grab them and then just check them out the door. I don't want to squish them because that's a lot of squish.
Yeah, I don't like that powder shell on me, but half the time you get that powder when you're just taking them out the house too.
Yeah.
This was easy enough to grab them and then just throw them out the door window, which was open right here.
Don't have
Monster
them
demon
here in the,
butterflies. Sorry, go ahead, Gary.
I say don't have them here in the apartment, but when I used to get them in the house, Cat would take care of them pretty much.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about having a cat around. It's true.
Yeah.
They're actually good for a shit ton of things like that. You don't really have stuff like that when there's a cat around.
Yep.
Yeah, our cat would do that. Our beagle would too. He would eat everything. So barbecue, Mr. BBQ.
Yes.
Are you any closer on? Oh, you're waiting for school to start again before you
Yes.
start up. Why don't you tell everybody what you've got planned for the future?
Well, the show will be called Two-Way Parlay. If you're not sure what parlay is, we're not talking with gambling or anything. It's where two opposing sides come together to have a discussion. I reckon it doesn't necessarily always have to be opposing, but I'm looking to have a chat that isn't just the typical echo chamber. I want some opposing views, things like that. That's the only way we're going to get better is if we can listen to others and see their point of view, see where they're coming from, things like that. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but understanding your enemy is gonna make you better, and how much of an enemy do they have to be? It's not like you have to be far right and then far left to have this conversation. It could just be just off a couple degrees each way, and you can have a civilized conversation. So, like I said, just trying to not have the typical echo chamber conversation. A place where people can come and have that differing point of view or something, and it doesn't have to be a all-out attack by 7 people when you're that one lone person. Stuff like that sucks. So hopefully it works out. I've got, I think, something like 56, 57 show ideas written down so far. So got plenty of shows planned, and I'm probably going to do like one show a month where it's going to be like a bracket or something, just to break up the seriousness of the shows throughout the month. So lot of stuff written out for topic ideas and whatnot. So I hope everybody tunes in when I get that up and going.
If possible, when you're ready to set stuff up, don't schedule your whole year all at one time. like Clover did. You get bombarded with all these chats that aren't going to happen for a while.
Yeah. That, and then
they
people
do happen, no one will know because they're fucking 8 months behind in our feeds.
Yep. And then you didn't hit the remind button or something, and I might go 2 weeks out at best.
Larry Knopf, and there we go, and the goddamn bacon's out there. He said, "Hey guys, Guns and Barbecues is back. Also want some ribs now." You're inspiring people, barbecue.
Hulav Moo is the man to talk about ribs. He just made ribs tonight. Granted, he made the devil ribs. By that, I mean baby backs, and I say they're devil ribs because they suck. But yeah, that's right. I said it. You don't like that? Come on Two-Way Parlay sometime and tell me why baby back ribs are so good, and then I'll tell you why you're wrong.
I don't like eating the ribs out of babies, so that's why I don't like them.
Well, you don't get a lot of meat off them.
Not a lot
on
of
their
meat.
backs. Yeah.
And they're too tender. They get really mushy before they get done.
G-Webs, what you got coming up?
Well, I just wanted to say that it's a bold move for barbecue to do a show about a dessert where you put yogurt or whipped cream in different layers with granola and fruit, to do a show about that fruit each week. So looking forward to all the different recipes.
The two-way parfait.
Yeah, the two-way parfait show that he's going to be doing.
Oh, there we go. That probably get more viewers that way. People be like, I love parfaits.
Anyway, Brooke does her show out in a couple of minutes ago, or a couple of hours ago, I guess. Oh, She Fires will do her show tomorrow. You could tag that one if you want. I can give you the link. Which she'll be talking about goals. Oh, I was also going to ask you, what did you put in for the? I feel like you should tell us what the prompt you put in for today's thumbnail. Looks like some kind of biker gang about to have some kind of fight.
Actually, I put in a cool mouse with leather jacket and sunglasses fighting a ghost frog.
Oh, shit.
It didn't really give me a ghost frog. It did end up giving me, I gave it a few more prompts. A really cool one that I'll probably save for October because it's more ghostly. It took a couple shots because, like, one of them, it gave the frog a mouse tail that was really long. I don't know. When it started out, when I first started using it, it would give me some awesome pictures, and now it's kind of, I don't know, it struggles a little.
Thanks for dropping that link. I can't get my computer to switch screens. Maybe something wrong with
Oh.
my browser.
Yeah, I was starting to type and then started talking, so I can't do them both. My mouth and hands work separately. Ooh la la la. Gary?
Thanks.
Well, first off, I'd like to wish Guns and Barbecue good luck, especially ambitious if he's going to try to do brackets, seeing as how bracket maintenance seems to be very difficult these days. A lot of people spend a lot of time keeping their brackets going, and they're always breaking down for some reason.
What
So-
It's a good point.
to be honest, to be fair, mine is surplus Soviet. So, I'm asking a lot for it just to work in the first place. So.
Yeah, and my bracket was designed by John Moses Browning. It's been around since the very early 1900s, like 1911 or so. It's 1911 of brackets, really. So it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's modern day and whatnot. I'm in the pocket of big two-way, so I'm just buying a brand new bracket machine. It's called a 1911 bracket machine. It's pretty awesome.
That's the way to do it. And yeah, also doing a complete show about a butter substitute, 2A parquet. I thought was a great idea. So
That's even better than the parfait.
so no, as for me, the usual, my channel members should be able to enjoy my Wednesday night members only chat at 8 p.m. Central every Wednesday, and then the one that is open to the public, which is Fowl Territory, FOWL, as in the bird, and that's every Friday night at 9 p.m. Central Time. So that's what I got going on. I did a ton of knife reviews last week because I had 7 of them that were all due on the same day because that's when the knives were released. So I flooded my channel with knife reviews all of a sudden. Got some content from Goals also. I got 2 or 3 videos out there, at least 1 more to come, if not 2. So there's stuff going on out there. Check me out if you get a chance. If you do, I appreciate it. And as always, thanks for having me.
Oh, so once again, if you watch this in replay, leave a comment. Anything we talk about, agree with, disagree with, think I left out, let me know. And if anybody has any topic ideas, the stuff they want us to talk about, let me know that too. I can always use topic ideas. Yes. What's that?
I got a topic idea. Why there's such a scourge of late night chats that are stingy with brackets.
We'll put that one. We'll put it on the list. We'll say
Because they shoot 9mm.
Yeah. So thank you to those that were out there in the live chat, chatting it up. And once again, if you didn't say anything but you were watching, I do appreciate you. Don't be afraid to speak up, so I know that you're out there. Next chat is Wednesday. So Wednesday night mouse party on Wednesday. And I should have, I'm going to take a new shooter to the range Tuesday. Someone who's never shot before. She's kind of afraid of guns. So I take her out. Hopefully we'll have a good time. And so I'll have a video of that up. Oh, should be next week. Other than that, there it is. Hope everybody has a good rest of the night and go do something good.
You still here? It's over. Go home.